bring in Weijia Jiang for more now. She is at the White House. Weijia, I want to start with the question that you asked Shah about the president's comments surrounding this Chinese company, ZTE. Perhaps it's worth reminding our viewers why ZTE is a controversial Chinese company.
Yeah, absolutely. So ZTE is a major telecommunications company in China. And just last month, the Commerce Department blocked imports of U.S. goods that ZTE relies on to make products because it was violating sanctions against North Korea and Iran. On top of that, U.S. officials, U.S. intelligence officials have warned that their products could be a national security threat to the U.S. That was just last month. And then yesterday, President Trump tweeted that he believes that ZTE should get back to work. In fact, specifically, that he was working with President Xi Jinping of China to make that happen, and adding that the Commerce Department has been instructed to make that happen again. Now, he used passive voice, but of course, it begs the question, who instructed the Commerce Department to do that? And of course, it is the president himself. And so there are so many questions about why the president would do that right now, especially because one of his reasons was that 70,000 jobs at ZTE, Chinese jobs, were at stake. And so why is the president caring about Chinese jobs when he has made it such a point that China has bad trade practices, that it has taken U.S. jobs? And Deputy Press Secretary Raj Shah did not really answer that question, except to reiterate the White House's statement that the president has instructed the Commerce Department to revisit this, and that Secretary Ross will be doing that. But certainly the context is important here. Of course, these two countries are in the middle of intense trade talks. And as you mentioned, the summit in North Korea is coming up, and it is no secret that the president needs and wants support from China to make that a success. And so this is viewed as a tampering down of the tone of these trade talks, as well as an opportunity to gain that support that is very much needed.
So do you think that there is no doubt that China is pushing for this?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the Chinese president has said as much, that this is costing tens of thousands of jobs, and that ZTE cannot operate without these goods from America. And so the Chinese have made it very clear that they need the U.S. and its products. The question is, if it is violating sanctions and if it is a U.S. security threat, why should the U.S. care?
Correct.
And that's what we were trying to get at with Raj Shah, and he did not answer that, except to say that, look, the relationship with China is obviously a very important one. The Chinese have stressed that this is important to them to revisit, and that's why we're doing it. He didn't add to that, leaving, again, many questions about why the U.S. should care.
Many questions, and also leaving questions about Kelly Sadler and whether she will receive any further discipline. It seems as not. It seems as if whatever has been done has been done. He kept repeating that the incident was dealt with internally. Do you think reporters were satisfied?
Absolutely not, because we asked, if you're telling us that it's been dealt with, tell us how, because this is not just a call from reporters. It is a growing call from lawmakers and from Americans who are deeply offended by these remarks and want to know how the White House is treating this. In fact, we heard Raj Shah talking about the leak of this comment in a rather annoying way, saying, look, if you can't go to your meetings with your colleagues and say what's on your mind, that's a problem. So they were asked directly whether this White House cares more about the leak of that cruel comment or about the content of that comment.
Right.
And it would be easy for him to explain how they addressed the content, what they specifically said to Sadler and perhaps other staffers about what is inappropriate and appropriate language to use here at the White House. But as you mentioned, he deflected many, many times just saying it's an internal matter and refusing to answer how it's been dealt with, even though he insists that it has in fact been dealt with. And we should mention that he repeated again that Kelly Sadler does in fact have a job, and we also asked, when Sadler might make that public apology to Meghan McCain, as she's promised, and he did not have the answers to that either.
And Weijia, another question that he did not seem to have very many answers to, or wasn't willing to go beyond a sort of canned statement, was about the violence in Gaza today. There, as you know, there has been a significant amount of it, and all the deaths have been Palestinian, and there has been some international criticism of Israel's response. But he was not willing to go anywhere past saying that Hamas is solely responsible for all of the deaths of the day. Do you think that was a little extreme?
Well, I think that it is exactly on message from what we've heard in Israel and what we've heard here, coming right out and celebrating today as a great day for Israel, a great day for the U.S. But you're right, very quickly he was asked, what about the dozens of lives that have now been lost? Should Israel practice any restraint? Because people continue to lose their lives and they're being injured. And again, he said, repeatedly using the same phrase, that this is squarely on the shoulders of Hamas. And even though the French foreign minister has come out and said that Israel needs to practice restraint given what we are seeing and so much violence occur, he would not stand in line with France. He would not answer whether the U.S. condemns that violence, only saying that the blame is on Hamas. And so clearly this administration is not going beyond what they have decided to treat this day as, which is a celebration. But again, you're right. The phrase split screen was used many times in this room because you cannot look at what's unfolding there without acknowledging the violence. But you said it, Raj Shah did not blame any of this violence on Israel. Again, just saying it is Hamas's fault.
Yes, Deputy Secretary Raj Shah staying squarely on message there. Weijia Jiang, thank you. We're going to take